Okay, welcome. As I said, thanks for being here with us today. It's nice to see some folks here, some familiar names, some new names. It's nice to see different people from New College joining us today. You have reached the New College Student Life info session, and this is going to be exploring different roles that are available as we lead into orientation for next year, as well as roles that take place throughout the fall and winter terms. And there's a little bit of summer in there as well. So hopefully at the end of this, you will gain a bit more insight into some of the opportunities that you might want to get involved in. So I can introduce myself first. It's always nice to know who you're in a space with. My name is Trish Starling. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Assistant Dean Student Life and Leadership at the Office of Residence and Student Life at New College. And I will let my lovely colleagues introduce themselves. Jared, do you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Jared here. I'm the Student Life Programs Coordinator in the Office of Residence and Student Life. So really happy to see so many of you here today and to chat with you about some of the roles that we have.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Asbar. I'm the Programs and Communications Assistant here at Orsil. So I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. And you are more than welcome to reach out to any of us at u.studentlife@utoronto.ca. We all monitor that inbox. So if you have any questions, say after this session or anything pops up later on, feel free to check out that email. We're constantly monitoring it and more than happy to answer your questions there.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Jared. We do have some outcomes set up for this, and I'm going to throw it over to Jared to go through those.
Great. So basically, what we're hoping that you'll get out of today's session is that we're going to show you a little bit about each of the roles that we have available, what the roles look like, the commitment level required of each role, and how each of the roles are compensated. You'll be able to understand the relationships between some of our different the programs that we offer within the office. So our orientation programs, our Sprout mentorship program, and more broadly relating to the other work that we do here in Student Life and Leadership. You'll understand a little bit more about the recruitment process. So learning a little bit about the application, and we're happy to take any questions about interviews and anything like that as well. And of course, we'll show you a little bit about how you can get further support during the application process if you have any questions or need anything from us.
Okay, so this slide is a screen grab from our student guide. This is something that's updated every year, and it shows a little bit about the demographics at New College. So as you can see, we are actually one of the largest colleges at U of T, which is pretty cool. I believe the number that is like 5,946 is over 6,000 by now. I may be wrong, but I think we have passed that threshold, which is pretty cool. We do have a large international population. So here it says 43%. So I'd say almost half of our students are international students. And really what's cool is that we have students that come from over 100 countries. So we have a wide range of students with a lot of different histories and backgrounds, which is really awesome in our community. So we really want to respond to the students' needs when given these factors, right? So we have a lot of different programs available throughout the college that not only Orsil hosts, but a lot of different departments host. For example, with us, we have New Journeys, International Welcome, Sprout, Orientations, Reignites, a lot of different things. So it's a really exciting place to be. And we really have a variety of leadership roles available to support students during their transition to university and New College. So really from the moment that they get their acceptance letter all the way to the end of their first year when they finish their exam, all the way to when they graduate. So this gives you a little sense of where we are at New College. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. I wanted to talk a bit about our office's mission and values. And this is really to give you a sense, as somebody who may be interested in getting involved, what we're really looking to do and to strive for in our work, and thinking about the relationships that we hold with each other, as well as new students or other students who may not be deeply involved with our office, how we want to ensure that we're kind of using these principles to give us a path to make sure that we are doing the best we can and to create a good environment for everyone. So really thinking about being student-centered, of course, our office really, that I always say, like, that's my job. Like, students are my job, is to really be there and to help support. And everyone who works with us has that priority to really think about, what do the students need, and what are they saying that can help inform us to create our path and how we want to move forward. Embedded in that is always thinking about equity and thinking about how different people need different things. And so always considering that when we do any type of program or opportunity, and making sure that that is a driving force to ensure that all are included in the best way possible. And also thinking about personal growth. We want to make sure that everyone is on a different path and growth looks different for everyone. And so thinking about everyone's different senses of self-awareness, how do we build that? How do we think about practices of accountability with each other? And so we're really trying to create a community that cares for each other in a deep way. And there's lots of different ways you can achieve this, but we really want to focus on collaboration, working with multiple people, working with different types of offices, different support systems. At New College, but also across campus. We want to be innovative in what we're thinking about. So we don't have to do things the same every time. What different ways can we do different things to best meet people's needs? Openness, really being open to hearing different ideas, open to honest communication, will allow us to meet the most people's needs. And I think also being a bit practicing humility and recognizing that we all bring different levels of experience to our space. And sometimes we have to really kind of step back and assume that others may have a better sense of how to do things, or their lived experience may actually inform things in a much deeper way than others. So being open to different perspectives, and also keeping ourselves humble in what we're doing. And then one thing that I think is very important to everyone in our office is really thinking about a practice of care and a community of care, and ensuring that we want to practice care with all of the members of our community, and really trying to reduce harm as best as we can. We're going to go through.
So,
go ahead.
This one I remember. So as far as so Trish talked a little bit about some of the overarching goals, things that that sort of drive our work. One of the core things that we really try to do in this office, in all of our programs, is to create opportunities for students that are educationally purposeful. So as much as we see value in things like social time and spending time with other students, there's actually a lot of really important educational things that are coming through from that. So learning more about campus, learning how to make connections at university, all of these things are from our perspective really educationally meaningful. So within all of that, we're thinking about education in the following ways. So really thinking about that connection to community, both on and off campus. So investing in positive and meaningful relationships. We're thinking about preparing our students for success, again, like in their academic studies, but also in life. So learning to sustain themselves in ways that respond to sort of where they're at on their journey, where they want to go. And finally, thinking about their growth and wellness. So I'm hoping that you're starting to see some of these. There are a lot of sort of overlapping themes in the way we approach our work and the way that we're approaching education of students.
So let's talk about it. What are the roles? What do they look like? It's a complex but hopefully simplified organism when we break it down a bit more. And really, I want you to remember that a lot of these roles can actually be combined. So it's a bit of a choose your own adventure. So this is kind of shows the timeline of the year and when these different roles take place, and how they connect into the different programs. So one way I've been thinking about it is really thinking about kind of orientation programming, and that might that's really focused on the summer, and of course early fall, those first couple of weeks in September. And then there's also our mentorship program, and there's an online mentorship program that takes place throughout the summer, and then that moves into our Sprout mentorship program. That's more of a traditional mentorship program that goes from October to April. There's a lot of information on this table. I think the next slide will help give some context to what those timelines look like for each of those roles.
So what this table shows is the hiring timeline and then the sort of work timeline of each of the roles that we're hiring for. So the first two columns there, orientation coordinator, the two columns in yellow, so the far left and then the second from the right, orientation coordinator, community advisor, those roles have closed. The applications for those roles have closed. The rest, the green and the blue columns there, so orientation exec, EMentor, peer leader, head peer leader, and Sprout mentors, those are still open. So just to kind of give you an example, if we take a look at the orientation executive, this is the second column from the left. The hiring period, it goes through February, and then their role begins in March. And then you can see as the role progresses, where that orange gets a little bit darker through to June and July, that's when the role really starts to pick up, heavier in August and September, and then ends in September. So this gives you just at a quick glance, kind of where each of these roles fit within our cycle. For anyone who has been around for a couple of years, you'll notice that one of the things that we're really trying to do this year is we're really trying to kind of break apart roles into more manageable chunks. So as Trish was suggesting, you can take on an EMentor role. This is the third column here, where you'd be hired in March, and then your role would kind of go through the summer, pretty low key, no more than 5 hours a week tops, of sort of some email pieces. And then you'd end your role once the school year kicks off. So if you're looking for a low kind of commitment volunteer opportunity over the summer, let's say you have a full-time job commitment, you can't take on anything major, but still want to be involved, this is a great way to do that. For peer leaders, you'd really be looking to be hired around the same time. You would sort of work through orientation, and then that's it. So if you're interested in just being part of our orientation program, that opportunity exists. Similarly for head peer leaders, really the heaviest parts of the role are orientation. You'll notice there's a little bit of this lighter orange in advance of that. That's really just to support head peer leaders through the summer, have them understand what's coming so that they can support PLs during the orientation program. And then the last piece here is Sprout mentors. This is the far right column. Sprout mentors are hired around the same time, but their role doesn't begin until late September. And then they sort of take on a mentorship role for our first year students through the rest of the year, with support from CAs, community advisors, and of course, the team here in Student Life. So the main message that we want to get across here is that there's lots of roles, lots of opportunities for you to get involved that we hope really fit with your schedule, with your commitments. We've really tried to break things up, again, as I said, to help you make better decisions about what's going to work for you. And as Trish mentioned, you can, of course, take on multiple roles. So if you want to be an EMentor and a peer leader, no problem. We can make that happen. If you want to be a peer leader and a Sprout mentor, even better. So it's really up to you. You can decide which parts of the program you'd like to be a part of. And happy to return to this graphic if you have other questions. The last thing I'll mention here is that one of the roles that's not included here is our work study positions. So typically we hire 1 to 3 work study positions beginning in the fall. Those applications are generally available in the summertime. And those are also paid positions that sort of work alongside really closely our community advisors throughout the year to execute some of our programming.
Thanks, Jared. One thing as you were speaking, Jared, that I thought about is I think there are different, everyone's coming in from a different place, and you may have different responsibilities or commitments, as Jared mentioned. And I don't want anyone to feel that a lower commitment opportunity, that there's some sort of hierarchy. There absolutely isn't. And I think when, again, we're thinking about that student-centered piece, your experience with your various commitments or what you are able to do, that's going to be a reflection of somebody who's coming into the new college community as well. So the more difference we can have in terms of what everyone is doing, what your financial makeup looks like, what commitments you have maybe with family or other community work, that is going to just make the experience better for anybody who's a new person joining us at New College, because there's going to be some familiarity there and somebody who can really reflect new students' experience. So I think this is a good way to really provide an opportunity for all of you, depending on your different situations, but also to better reflect the new college students joining us in September.
Wonderful. So this is a picture of orientation 2019. I'm pretty sure. Thank you. I wasn't here at that time. I wasn't even born, if you can believe it. So the point of our showing you this picture is just to demonstrate this is, sort of the size and scope of the the incoming class. We have all kinds of students. They're all there in the yellow. This is a small fraction of the students that we welcome every year. And along the bottom of the photo, there's a whole group of people in green t-shirts. These are our leaders. So these are the people that you're looking to become, right? So if it helps you to sort of see it and envision it like this, we might not be able to run something like this again this year, just based on sort of where we're at with COVID, but we're ever hopeful that we can offer incredible and robust and super exciting programs for our students. And without further ado, we're going to take a closer look at each of the roles.
So as Jared mentioned, orientation coordinator and community advisor have closed. We are reviewing those applications now and sending out interview invitations. But if perhaps you're here or you're listening to this after the fact and you have applied, do keep in mind that if you submit one application, we keep those in mind for future roles. So this is another advantage of having different opportunities, is that depending on whether you're successful with one, there may be a great opportunity kind of around the corner for the next one as well. So today you are here with us. Thank you. Welcome. We are chatting about more specifically the orientation executive roles, head peer leader role, peer leader, Sprout mentor, and Sprout EMentor roles.
Okay, so I'll start us off with the peer leader role. Some of you may also hear it called in other colleges, like an orientation leader, for example, as it really is focused during the orientation period. So as Jared showed in the previous slide, it was the end of August, early September time for orientation. So what does this job or this position look like? We hire about 70 to 90 students to really help support students during that time, as we typically have several hundred who sign up for orientation. And what you're doing is you're developing meaningful and caring relationships, and also prioritizing safety and well-being. And like I mentioned before, you're providing leadership to incoming students. So you may see a group of, say, approximately 20 students, then maybe more, maybe less, between two leaders. So you're usually with your co-leader, kind of walking around with your green shirt, you have your group sign or flag, which is pretty fun. And you're modeling positive behavior throughout the week or weeks of orientation. And this is also a great time to develop connections and relationships with your group. You can also promote academic support. So a lot of resource sharing. I remember when I was an incoming student at my first orientation, a lot of leaders were sharing like, okay, this is the places you can go to. Don't forget the bookstore, don't forget the registrar's office. So a lot of resource sharing during that time. And again, like you're just making referrals, or if you ever don't have like a response or not sure what to say, we do provide training as well, as we're always here to support. So there's going to be orientation executives, coordinators, head peer leaders, and also us or SOL staff that you can refer up to if you ever have questions or need more support. So applications for this role do close on March 2nd, 2022. So there is a bit of time to complete the application. And again, August to end of the orientation period. So that's about early September, usually before classes start, sometimes the first 2 days of classes, is the term of the role. So for the next slide, the compensation and time commitment. There is training so that we can help prepare you for the role. Orientation can be a pretty intense week or two. So we do provide, actually the university provides what's called JOLT, so Joint Orientation Leader Training. So that is a time where you're actually meeting with a bunch of colleges. So I believe like you'll see students from Innis, students from St. Mike's, I think engineers are also sometimes there. So all the leaders are coming together and they're all getting training together. So that is about 10 hours. So that's 3 hours synchronous during the summer, and it is pretty flexible. So they do provide multiple dates, so you can pick a time that works best for your schedule. And then the other training is NCOLT. So it kind of matches with the JOLT acronym. So NCOLT is New College Orientation Leader Training. So this is training that our office provides specifically for new college leaders. And it's about 3 half days during the last week of August. And they're typically recorded in case if you can't attend. So the role is about 5 days. So there is long shifts to facilitate orientation. So it could be up to 12 hours in late August, early September. Again, this depends on the schedule of orientation and how it's going to look like this year. But typically it is quite an intense period during the end of August, early September. For compensation, this is a volunteer role, but you do get CCR validation and a bunch of pre-service training to develop your skills as leader. So those are the main pieces about a peer leader.
And I think the other thing with that, sorry, I know I'm speaking out of turn here, is I just want to reiterate, we're looking for 70 to 90 positions. So, you know, come one, come all, bring all your friends, everyone is welcome. Yeah, tell everyone.
Tell everyone you know.
Yeah, make it a party.
Yeah, I would probably add to, like, if you're looking for an entry role, peer leader is usually a great starting role. It gives you experience into what orientation looks like. I think a lot of people tend to like orientation as a leader more than their own orientation as a new student, because you get to experience it as like, oh, I've already done like a year or two at New College or U of T. Now I can like have fun and also like enjoy my time with my fellow peer leaders and also new students and help them out. So that has been an experience I've been told about before, and definitely would recommend it as an entry position if you're looking to maybe go up and do like executive, coordinator, commuter advisor. So yeah.
Okay, getting ahead of myself. So talking a little bit about the head peer leader role. So head peer leaders, one of the core functions that the head peer leader provides is to support the peer leaders during orientation. So we'll have a small group of peer leaders that they'll be sort of directly advising, working with our orientation executive to help facilitate communications, really just sort of serving in sort of a management role in helping coordinate some of our volunteers. So if you have been a volunteer here or elsewhere, and you're looking to shine your skills a little bit in volunteer management, this is a really great opportunity for you. So pretty similar things. We're looking at fostering care and community. We're promoting student learning. So again, one of the things that we try to do in all of our work is thinking about what students can learn in the things that they're doing, prioritizing, of course, safety and well-being. As I mentioned, you're providing leadership to the PLs, modeling positive behavior, looking to not only develop students' skills, but also those of your PLs, right? So you might be providing mentorship or tips, and of course, making referrals. So just like the PL role, the HPL role closes on March 2nd, and the role runs from April through to the end of September. So the reason that the HPL has a little bit longer of a commitment versus the PL is during the summer, as the orientation executive team and coordinators are developing the program, they're going to be keeping the HPLs in the loop about here's where the program is going. These are the kinds of things that you'll have to know in order to be successful, because we want to make sure the HPLs are really in the know, are able to support PLs with questions. So even though the role begins earlier, sort of in that April-May timeframe, the commitment is very, very low during the summer. Maybe 5 hours every 2 weeks, even like over the course of the month, be pretty low key. And then again, similarly, as we look ahead to orientation, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, so staying updated orientation planning, max an hour a week through May to August, and then that 5 days of orientation, again, that similar sort of up to 12-hour shifts. So demanding during that time, and then it sort of closes out. So Similar to the PLs, the HPLs will attend JOLT, Joint Orientation Leader Training, and complete IAR, Identify, Assist, Refer training. And may attend OTWG, which is the Orientation Training Working Group, sorry, that's not right. It should be OPFG, Orientation Planning Functional Group. My apologies. Doesn't matter. The acronyms don't matter. We'll get you all keyed in. It's really not important. And regular meetings with the executive. And then, of course, the NCOLT training as well, New College Orientation Year training. So for HPLs, this is also a volunteer role with CCR validation and plenty of training to help you develop your skills. HPLs will also receive a Safe Talk certification. So this is a nice, if you're looking to develop your skills in suicide intervention, this is one of the perks of the HPL role.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the Sprout EMentor position. For this role, we're looking for about 10 people, and I'd say this is also a really, really great entry-level role. So if you're looking to kind of dip your toes into student life and try out something different, this is a really great position, and it falls more under the mentorship side of things. So Trish mentioned, like, we have a lot of orientation roles and a lot of mentorship roles. Based on the name, this is a much more mentorship focused position. So what does it look like? Essentially, you're providing caring leadership to incoming students by answering questions via email. So throughout the summer, Orthel, so our office, will be releasing bi-weekly newsletters to all the incoming students before they essentially start their first classes in September. And during that time, students will actually get your email or get a way to communicate with you and ask questions. They might say hello, they might ask for a specific resource. And this can look like about 5 to 10 emails a week, more or less, depending on the time. Usually there's a spike when a newsletter goes out that students will, oh, this is a great time for me to ask questions because I'm reminded of something through the newsletter, and then they'll message you and you can respond. Typically, this role also encourages you to model positive behavior. So you are kind of like an ambassador of New College during this time and really supporting students as they're getting ready to transition in. And again, like I mentioned, it's referring to a lot of campus resources if needed. So the newsletters will be highlighting resources, but they might ask for specific things, might ask for clarification, or they may not know what resource to actually go to if they need support. But we will be providing training. So the role duration is May to end of September. May is typically the time that we do the training. So after exams, we host some sessions. We provide this huge handbook with a lot of resources for you to kind of refer to in case if you don't know. And similar to the other roles, March 2nd is the time that the application closes. So that is kind of in terms of timelines. So after that, compensation and time commitment is very similar to the peer leader role. It's a volunteer role. You'll get CCR validation as well as a pre-service training, like I mentioned. Again, the EMentor training is 2 hours around, I'd say May is more likely because April is typically exam season. And then there's a lot of resources, handbooks, things that you can refer to throughout the summer as well. Our office is always here to support. So in case if you don't know how to answer an email, you don't know really what resource would be best, we're always here throughout the summer for any needs that you have. So again, the role is supporting income students by email and other digital means, maximum 3 hours a week from May to September. So I think I'd say out of all these roles, this one might be the most like low key, very like online, responding to emails. There's no really face-to-face things. So definitely recommend this as an entry-level position if you're looking for something low-key to do.
The other thing oh, sorry, Jared, I wonder if we're going to say the same thing. I was going to say this might be a good position if, for example, you might be an international student and you recognize that you might be going home over the summer. This can definitely be done from different time zones quite easily. So that might be a good access point for you as well. Jared, was it or no?
We are simpatico today, Starling.
Super.
And just to reiterate, we're looking to hire about 10 people as Sprout EMentor. So tight little team, really great opportunity to get to know some other students in a sort of tight knit kind of way. Okay, so the EMentor position kind of runs from May through to September. The Sprout mentors really kind of kick off from October and close out the year through to the end of April. So this is your kind of year-long providing mentorship to students. So again, providing not just leadership, but caring leadership to first-year students through the year in sort of small groups on a monthly basis. Talking about new college events, programs, and services, so helping students find their way, providing referrals, and of course, modeling positive behavior. I liked how Alex put it. It's really just that you're an ambassador for the college, that you're helping students find the sort of best ways to access services, to make friends here, to understand the values that we espouse at the college, all of those things. So just like all these other roles, this application closes on March 2nd. And I also really want to reiterate that for all of these roles, there is one application. It's the same application for all roles. So if you're thinking, I want to be an EMentor and a Sprout mentor, it's the same application. You only have to complete it once. There's a tick box at the top of the form to indicate which roles you're interested in. So there's no need to do multiple applications in case you're like, oh no, there's so many apps, just one. And the great thing is that we will consider you for every role that you've applied for. So even if you're unsuccessful in, say, being an orientation executive, we would automatically roll your application over to be considered for a PL or an HPL or Sprout mentors, things like that. Speaking of the time commitment, so Sprout mentors will be expected to complete IAR, which is Identify, Assist, Refer training, which is about 30 minutes, and it's online. And then there'll be mentor training, which is 2 half days in the last week of September. And those dates, of course, will be communicated to you much closer to. The role itself will be about 5 hours a week, including organizing your meeting with mentees, sending emails, preparing reports, that kind of thing. When I say preparing reports, I mean just filling out a simple online form, so nothing too taxing. This is also a volunteer role with CCR validation and pre-service training. Oh, sorry. And Trish, over to you.
Okay, thank you. I was like, oh, is it me? It's me. So our next role is the orientation executive. So really, this is a role that is supporting the orientation coordinators. They are, facilitating what orientation is going to look like. They are doing the planning around it. So really thinking about working at New College with different stakeholder groups. So you might be part of a presentation that's part of OPFG, which is the Orientation Planning Functional Group. But really that's to keep people like, for example, our registrar's office informed of what orientation is going to look like this year, et cetera. And just as well as New College Student Council. So making sure all of our stakeholders are informed of what is going to be happening and where we are at in terms of developing that orientation plan. It's really about creating community of your executive, those 9 folks, as well as the orientation coordinators and people like me or Jared or Alex who are all supporting the work. Really, of course, in all of these roles, we want to prioritize safety and well-being. And the exec really serves as the leaders to the head peer leaders and the peer leader teams as a whole. So thinking about ways to create community within all of those kind of mini teams that then serve as example that trickles down into the new, oh my gosh, I keep saying this and I need to stop saying it, new students. There is a bit of budget management. You are given a decent sized budget to put on orientation, but that will be done with coaching and in collaboration with the orientation coordinators. And then of course we want some, modeling positive behavior and thinking about how you might be developing as a student, other students and your team. This team is a bit different in that there's kind of sub teams within them. So there's a few focused areas. So thinking about marketing promotions, you might be interested in really thinking about how are we getting the word out about orientation on that team? What does it look like? What does the brand of this particular year? What's the image of New College orientation for this particular season? You on that team, you might also be designing things like programs, thinking about Instagram, thinking about different social media platforms and how those things can be cohesive and really just drive more folks to have interest and to come out to orientation. There's also the programs team. Programs team is really thinking about, what is the do? What are people experiencing as part of orientation? And last year, this was a blend of some in-person opportunities as well as virtual. So thinking about what is the experience that we want students to have and how are we orchestrating that? And it's really planning right from the idea of thinking about what you want it to be and really ticking off those boxes to bringing it right to execution. And then volunteer management is what it sounds like, really thinking about all of those teams from peer leaders, head peer leaders, the exec, who is going to be where and doing what as part of orientation. This is a logistical role of thinking about how many numbers, who needs to be where, who's available, who isn't, as well as a bit of team building, kind of intentional team building of the exec throughout the summer as well. These roles close a little bit earlier than the other ones. So these have a February 2nd close date. And this role goes from March, thinking about early planning, all the way to October. Later in September and October is really used for kind of reporting back and getting some documents together that will help support the orientation executive coming on the next year. So really wrapping up things as we move into fall. So what does this look like in terms of compensation and time? You do have hiring training, which is 1 day in March. You would be involved in some of the other training pieces. It is also doing that joint orientation leader training and the identify, assist, refer that we've spoken about with the other roles. So we're looking at about 10 hours asynchronous, and then 3 hours synchronous during the summer. And there's some flexibility there in terms of, I think both things, especially that asynchronous training. And then we also have a New College orientation leader training that happens the last week of August. So thinking about 8 to 15 hours a week, depending on the month. It does like ebb and flow a little bit, and it also depends on which portfolio you're looking at. Right now, there is a stipend for anyone part of the orientation exec of $600. That is subject to change. However, it's only going to change in the plus, not in the minus. So definitely guaranteed that $600 stipend. You also receive CCR validation. You get all that pre-service training, and you also have the opportunity to get Safe Talk certification. I'm going to pop into the chat more thorough information about all of these descriptions. I'm just going to answer that question real quick about what does stipend mean, because that's an important one. It means money. It means a check. So rather than, you may also hear of it called an honoraria or an honorarium. It really means you complete your duties, and then at the end of it, you get a check in thanks and gratitude for the work that you have put in.
Sorry for this. My cat was, she really did. The cat had to go. One of the things that Trish mentioned that I did want to stress was in thinking about the training, the JOLT training, where it says 10 hours of asynchronous and 3 hours of synchronous. That 10 hours isn't sort of back to back. It's not a like, an 8 to 6 kind of thing. It's, you can really sort of work on the modules at your own pace and your own time through the summer. It could take up to 10 hours. You might get through it a little quicker than that. But then there's a 3-hour sort of synchronous session that you would have to attend. And as Trish said, there's lots of dates you can choose from. So there's plenty of flexibility there. And I did want to highlight a great question that came forward in the chat around what about sort of the online components of these roles? Are all of them online or some of them in person? Just for the purpose of anyone watching the recording later on. Some of the roles are exclusively online, like the EMentor role, as Jade's highlighted in the chat, but the other roles, head peer leaders, PLs, the execs coordinators, these are roles that have, during these times, a significant digital component, but may have in-person components as well. But we are understanding of the fact that we are living through a global public health crisis. And so there's certainly plenty of flexibility, particularly if you're an international student and for travel reasons can't come to Canada, can't attend campus. We're happy to work with you to find ways to help these roles work for you and still meet the needs of the program. So if you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to us at new.studentlife.utoronto.ca. We'd be happy to chat with you about your specific situation.
Thanks, Jared. I appreciate those points. So just a review of a timeline. Application is live. And then again, it's that joint application. You just have to do it once, upload a resume, fill out a few questions. We'll be using that for all of the things. I don't know if someone can maybe plop in the link to that in the chat. I don't have it handy, but I will do it later. I know Alex is doing it. I can see their brain working already. We will be hosting orientation coordinator and commuter advisor interviews next week. Again, those opportunities have already closed. Next big date for you all here would be February 2nd at 9 a.m. That's the exec application close. So maybe if you want to put a deadline in your calendar, maybe put the 1st in there so you don't miss that 9 a.m. And those interviews will take place February 11th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. And then the next big deadline for the other roles is Wednesday, March 2nd. Again, that's at 9 a.m. So maybe put March 1st in your calendar as a flag. And we will be hosting those interviews March 16th to 31st. And I believe that is those are all video interviews. So you should be able to access wherever you might be, because we know we're here in these times. So we are understanding around that and want to make this process as accessible as possible, given everyone's different circumstances. Oh, here it is right here. Oh, okay, so Alex has just put the application form in the chat, but we also have all those links here, as well as a QR code that can guide you along the way. And as always, we can't have you in front of us without really stressing, follow our Instagram and Facebook. That is where the most current information is going to be. And of course, please do not hesitate to email us if you have any other questions. Where can I find this recording? Right there on that Student Life hiring page, that first link up there. Which I believe the QR code will bring you to as well. We will be uploading that in the next day or so. Yep. So you can see that there. So you can reference this after the fact. And the other piece that I think might be a good opportunity as we move into questions is that we do have some folks with us today who have done these things. They have been there, they have done the application, they have experienced the roles. A lot of them have done multiple of these roles. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now. I would like to introduce those who have joined us. So I'm just going to go based on who I'm seeing here first. Jade, do you want to introduce yourself and give us a sense of what roles you have done in your tenure?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jade. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently in my 3rd year, but as part of orientation, student leadership, these kinds of things, I have worked as a peer leader. I've worked as an exec, as you can see in the photo right there. And I am currently one of the work studies at Orso.
Thank you, Jade. And next I see Sanjana. Do you want to tell us how you have been involved with our office?
Love to. Hi everyone, I'm Sanjana. I go by she, her. I'm currently the commuter advisor. I've been a commuter advisor since my 3rd year, but I started off during my 2nd year as the orientation leader / sprout mentor / EMentor. And I found that all of those combined turned out to be a very great experience to kind of set me up for what this position kind of took on.
Thank you, Sanjana. And then I see Chelsea.
Hi. Hi everyone, I'm Chelsea. I'm in my 4th year. I use she, her pronouns. So I was a Sprout mentor, a Sprout e-mentor, a PL, HPL. This previous orientation, I was the executive for with a volunteer management portfolio. And currently I am a commuter advisor or senior peer leader.
Thank you, Chelsea. Is there anyone else in the room who has done any of these roles before?
I see we have Yvonne here.
Yes, that's who I was wondering. No pressure.
I was messaging Yvonne and got permission. So Yvonne, please.
Hello, I'm Yvonne. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm in HPL this year, a head peer leader.
Great. Thanks, Yvonne. So I don't know, does anyone have any questions for these very experienced students who might be able to shed some personal insights into what the roles were like for them?
And you can feel free to pop in the chat, turn on your microphone, whatever works for you.
Also, if you don't have any specific questions, you just want to hear like what kind of our experiences are like, that's cool too.
Maybe, great question from Yvonne. To the execs, so those who have held that role, what do you like about your role? So I suppose that's a Chelsea and Jade question.
Okay, I'll go first. Let's see, I liked a lot of things about this role, but specifically, I like the friendships that I made. Like, look how happy we are in this picture. And I learned a lot professionally. So I was the volunteer management exec, as I've said before. And with this portfolio, what I really wanted to learn was how to be a better leader in terms of managing a group of people. So I guess what I'm saying is what I liked is that I was able to learn what I wanted to learn. And even before we started doing everything, the orientation coordinators, they asked me, oh, what do you want out of this role? And as well as Jared and Trish, they would ask, what do you want to learn? What do you want out of this role? And they really work with you so that you get to reach that goal. You get to learn whatever you need. You get what you need from this role. So yeah, I really like the support that was with it. And it was fun. It's a fun experience.
For me, like Chelsea was a VM, but I was the programs exec. So it's a lot of work, but despite it being a lot of work, you get to learn a lot of different things. You get to start doing a lot of things that maybe you would never do, right? Like you have to, along with the rest of your team, you have to plan a whole suite of events for, like this year, over 300 students over the course of 2 weeks. Like that's a lot of work, but the fact that you're doing it with such a supportive team, the fact that you're doing it with so many different people, it makes it so much more cohesive, and you're able to learn so much from that. Like you're never alone in any of these roles, but with the exec team being such a small knit team, especially within your own portfolios, it's a lot of fun, guys. I don't know how to tell you this.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. There's always free food, like bags of chips.
Always free
juice
food.
boxes.
We should have put that in the compensation slide.
Free food.
I will also say that I was walking with my partner recently who pointed out like, oh, look at this chat time place. And I was like, let me tell you about the 2 weeks between like the end of August and the beginning of September. And now I had more bubble tea than I've ever had in my entire life. So if you're signing up to be an exec, you're signing up to have a lot of bubble tea. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, just putting it
See?
out there. If I'm involved in orientation next year, we're not going to chat time. I'm sorry, Chelsea. Chat time's not good.
Wow. Okay. We got to take this offline because I feel like this is about to go into very interesting territory. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm good with Coco. What am I saying? I'm
Go to
not even
Coco.
involved next year, but
Okay, but
Yeah, there's a question from Justin in the chat regarding grades. So grades do not impact your application, but there is, I believe, a question that you check mark regarding permission for us to double check your grade to just make sure you're not on academic probation. So I don't remember the exact GPA, but as long as you're in good standing, like Jade mentioned, it does not impact at all. So yeah, 1.75 might be right. It is on the app. You'll just have to just check mark it. We'll double check. And then as long as you are in good standing, that is all we need to know. And again, that information just stays with our office. It does not go anywhere else.
And
that,
for the record, what we do is we send a list of names over to the registrar's office. They run a check. We don't even get to see your grades. Like, you know, so like Alex, Trish, myself, we won't get a report saying this is Jade's GPA and this is, you know, Sanjana's GPA. We don't see that information. We just get a like, yep, that it's above like whatever threshold we set. If you're really struggling academically, say you're in your first year and you're really having a tough go, the reason that that we have this cutoff is not to say that you're not smart enough to be a leader. That's not the point. The point is just to make sure that we're setting you up for success by not asking you to take on a role that would prevent you from performing academically. Now, let's say that you're like really quite close. That's where there's an opportunity again for us to have a conversation to say, okay, you know, what's the plan? What can we do in our office to support your academics so that you can achieve academically, you know, remain in your programs, but also contribute to the community. So there's flexibility there, even though it sounds like a hard line. So I hope that helps to provide a little more context.
and for those of you that might be listening and thinking, wow, this seems like a lot of work, you know, I do have really, you know, a large academic commitment too, and I have to spend a lot of time studying. Do keep in mind, and this is a bit of like my own like personal thing, but keep in mind that many studies demonstrate that if you are involved on campus, your grades actually do better. So it's not that it has to be one or the other. The two commitments can kind of inform and support each other as well. So if those is anyone's hesitation around grades, I think that is such a good conversation starter to have with myself or Jared or Alex, because I think there's a way we can make things work so that it benefits you, it benefits our team, and ultimately it's going to benefit the larger student body. So if there's anything like that that's kind of coming up for you as a potential barrier, I would say like let's have a conversation about it before you kind of opt out, because I think we can provide a lot of like nuance and context that might give you a different perspective. Oh, and Jade is just wrote in the chat here. Just know I did the exec role while also doing a full-time research position, looking for a rental downtown. It's a lot of work, but it's not unmanageable, and we can always have a conversation about how to balance things. Exactly, we're a team. Chelsea, I see your hand up.
yeah, I can attest to the thing about like your grades kind of improving, or I guess being really good when you're involved. While I was the exec this summer or past summer, like Jade, I was also very busy. I had a work study, I was doing the exec position, and I was doing summer school. And I got my first A in my whole university career. I ended with an A in this course in summer school. And I think it was because of how highly motivated I was every day, because I was so excited about orientation.
There it is. That's the case study right there. you know?
Can we get an A in the chat for Chelsea for getting her first A? Oh,
Yay!
A.
There's another
Um,
question. Oh, sorry, Jared.
Nope, Alex, you go. We're
Yeah, just for the recording, another question from Justin. So let's say I know nothing about campus and new college resources. Will all these things be taught to us during training? That is 100% yes. There are a lot of trainings that happen. There's a lot of resource booklets. I know for e-mentorship specifically, we even have like a whole handbook with a list of all the resources that we could have found. But really what a lot of, I believe Jade even mentioned, like a lot of us are here to support. So you could talk to your fellow leaders, you could talk to us. If you never, like, if you're not too sure about what an answer might be or what a resource you can like say reference, we are here to help. And sometimes I know leaders can reach out to other leaders and ask like, oh, I know you're like a Rotman student and my student is asking me about Rotman things. Like, are there any things you might suggest? So a lot of great resources available within the team that you could definitely reach out to. So never feel like you have to know everything, because again, there's training, there's supports. We are always here to support you throughout your leadership journey.
Thank you. Are there any other questions out there? We are coming up on time, but I think we can probably answer another burning question if they're out there. Maybe not. Okay, well, I think that concludes our session. Again, thank you all for being here. We're really excited to see those applications come in from all of you and to have you on the team. I personally, and I think I probably speak for the rest of the team too, I'm excited to meet you and go on that journey together. I see a plug here, not a minute too soon, around community hours. So our senior peer leaders, who next year would be known as commuter advisors, do host 3 community hours. They're all virtual right now a week, and you can find out, honestly, my brain is not cohesive today. You can find out about them on the Life at New Instagram account. There is probably one even today. Is it true? I'm seeing a nod from Alex. Go for it.
Eric's, I believe, at 2 o'clock. They are hosting it on Zoom.
Yes, and that's about new year, your new year plans. What does that look like for you? So please come. That's a great opportunity again to connect with senior peer leaders and learn more about new college, different supports, and also just to connect with our community here. This will be recorded as mentioned, so if you want to touch back on anything, you can find that on the Student Life and Leadership hiring page. And I want to give a big thank you and shout out to Alex, as well as Jared, Chelsea, Jade, Sanjana, Yvonne for last minute hopping in as a potential expert in this. So thank you all of you who have come and helped out, and especially to those who are coming in to learn more. So we will see you all soon.